orbs, red lights in particular. We were able to photograph those in a Bigfoot area where there was active sightings, and I ended up having a rock thrown at me right after we saw these lights in the vicinity. I wasn't unnerved by the phenomena, but the people that were with me were unnerved enough that they wanted to leave. But we were able to photograph these lights and take some really nice, SLR pictures of them.
Wow.
Yeah, and that happens to a lot of people. Whether or not they're documenting it and keeping it hidden from you. My contention is most of these Bigfooters have this kind of stuff in their shoebox, and they're just not bringing it forward. And I wish they would.
I think you're right. I think the two camps don't necessarily communicate with one another on these issues, but I have, as a UFO person and interested in that subject, have run across folks who have seen these craft, potentially in close proximity, and then also have a Bigfoot sighting in the same area at approximately the same time. And the question is, are these things coordinating or related to one another?
Oh no, yeah, I've got some strong evidence that you're right, just based upon what's happened, in me and the people that I've interviewed. But I encourage you to stick with the course and pursue the phenomena as linked, and begin to collect your own sort of family photo album of that occurring. Definitely. Do the Bigfoot thing in conjunction with looking for the UFO thing. One of the long-term witnesses I work with up the river have active long-term Bigfoot activity, including with what seems to be some kind of alien contact, including small little moon boot prints that have walked up to their house in the snow, size, I don't know, size like 3 or 4. And, you see these little tiny child-sized moon prints walking up out of the woods across one of the main highways during the middle of the night, walking up to your house and suddenly disappearing. And then you put that in conjunction with doing a Google image search of your property. And they have an amazing photograph of what looks like this giant bubble hovering over their house. And it looks so much like a giant, maybe 7-foot wide bubble floating right over their property. That's a very, very bizarre thing to see on Google Earth, but they are able to capture these kind of things in conjunction with their Bigfoot activity and all sorts of other stuff I don't have time to get into. But there's a link, what it is, whether or not Sasquatch is the lights, whether or not they're connected to the Greys or the aliens, who knows? But Linda Moulton Howe will tell you that when she's done doing a debrief with someone who's been abducted, one of the things that they'll bring up time and time again is seeing a Sasquatch on board a craft and seeing them side by side with humans that have been abducted, sitting almost as though they're just as along for the ride for the same reason as them, or a Sasquatch being lowered out of a beam of light from a disc. These are reports that happen.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder.
Yeah, it does. At the very least, make you wonder. It can make a lot of people nervous, and then suddenly they're not interested in the phenomenon anymore. But I think it's one of the coolest things ever that this could somehow be connected to the UFO phenomenon.
Well, I have a strange feeling that they are connected in one way or another, or something. Something is so strange about this. We go into like different dimensions and all this stuff. all the different things that it seems to transpire, like the orbs, the lights, the flashing, the sounds, right down to where they, sometimes you're thinking something when you're near a Bigfoot, and it's like, they impose something into your brain. So, it's just, hey, somebody actually has some actual physical proof. We can speculate, but we can all say one thing: it's mighty strange.
Mighty strange, yeah. That's it. That's the phenomenon. It's very strange, and I just want to be a voice on the periphery here, representing the strange as best I can, and be honest with it as much as be totally honest and transparent about it. And if I'm wrong about certain issues, I'll definitely say that I think I was wrong about making a leap and connecting things like this. But I mean, the idea that there's a paranormal phenomena associated with Bigfoot isn't a very hard one, not a very big leap at all.
Yeah, you're so right. But it makes you just wonder, how many people have actually seen this stuff and just don't repeat it because, like some of these people are doctors, lawyers, judges, everyday people, if they went around and started telling people at work, guess what I saw?
No.
Yeah, let's face it, even myself, okay, the jobs I held, I ran some very big companies in my life. And after, my encounter, and to go up to somebody afterwards and say, hey, just in a conversation, hey, I saw a Bigfoot, they would look at me so strange that I wouldn't have got where I got in business. I mean, seriously.
Right.
I mean, so a lot of people, keep anything paranormal to themselves. But I will say this, because of Art Bell, back in the early 90s, and Lear, coming up to Art saying, hey, look, I know how you can get a huge audience. And Art, because Art told me this whole story one time. He said that, get into the paranormal. Mm-hmm. And, Art got into the paranormal, and some of it he absolutely didn't believe in, and some of it he was open to. But you know what? It opened up the paranormal. He did his show all those years. Then Coast to Coast came on with Nori and all these other, talk show hosts. It's opened up where people now, if you go on Facebook or you go on YouTube, I mean, people are talking about Bigfoot. They're talking about UFOs. They're talking about orbs,
Right.
And people are talking about it. They're not scared about what the neighbor thinks of them anymore or what their boss at work, the laundromat thinks of them. They're being more open and talking about it.
Yeah, we have a chance to be transparent now because of the fact that the government is now, coming forward here and admitting things with the UFO phenomena. I believe that we're at a point now where, they basically said, okay, we hid the subject matter for a number of years. We're ready to start to disclose it bit by bit, a soft disclosure, I would call it. Some of it is actually a pretty hardcore disclosure, but if they're covering up the UFO thing, they could definitely be covering up the Sasquatch thing. I just wanted to real quickly end that story about the cherry tomatoes. The point is, when getting back to what happened at that camp, when the young man went to hang up the dog food, he came back around the corner there, white as a ghost, holding in his hand a pair of tennis shoes, and they were just placed there within a matter of 15 minutes as we were casting these footprints.
Oh my God.
These shoes were placed there, left foot, right foot. And what had happened at that camp that night before, the fact that they couldn't afford a pair of tennis shoes for basketball season. And these shoes were laced up, right foot, left foot. They're an old pair of leather Converse shoes, baby blue, about his size. They had moss and a little tiny fern growing inside them, as though they had been placed and hidden somewhere for a period of time. But they were a gifted element to this young man. And the reason Bobo sent us to that spot is because they were gifted a necklace on top of their shoe. And so to have in conjunction this happen here, we told a lot of maybe daunting, scary stories here tonight about Sasquatch. I hope not. because it's about 30% of that, in my opinion. But this shows an attunement with a need of an individual here, and maybe an apology. Who knows what this was here? But I guarantee you, we didn't miss these shoes sitting by these cherry tomatoes because they were, so very obvious. And that's just an incredible story that is absolutely true. And make of it what you want. If it was a feral human of one kind or another that was pretending to be a Bigfoot all night, that's fine. But
I really doubt if somebody's going to pretend to be a Bigfoot out in the middle of the woods. Isn't there cougar and stuff around there?
Yeah, mountain lions is probably a better word because it puts it in perspective that it's a giant jungle cat that loves to sneak up on people and, rip their throat out.
Well, see, I mean, I think if somebody's trying to be Bigfoot out there where there's mountain lion or even any of those, critters, right? They would have to be the stupidest person that walking this earth because, I mean, they would be attacked, cougars, mountain lions, all that stuff. You're out there tromping around late at night, they're going to attack you. Even in the broad daylight, they'll attack you. I mean, there's cases up here in Issaquah, Washington, where joggers have been out there jogging, and last year a lady got nailed by a cougar. So, I mean, they follow you for a while, and then they'll pounce on you. But, one thing I will say, one of my guests I had on my show was in the military, Afghanistan, and he claims that he saw, the body of a giant. That I guess there was a squad of troops. They were, on a firefight. They went up to a cave. Supposedly, they thought it was, the enemy was there. Well, it turned out to be a giant. They end up killing the giant, bringing it back to the camp, and then all of a sudden, they hushed it all up, transported it, and then told everybody involved they did not see it. It never happened.
Are we talking about the one in Afghanistan where the firefight broke out and this thing whipped out like a giant sword and was wearing armor?
He didn't go into that much.
Okay.
He just went into what he did, and he was actually, he saw it. So it didn't see the fight what went on, but he saw the body before it was all of a sudden transported.
L.A. Marzulli has a clip of him interviewing one of these people that were involved in this firefight, and they've got a voice changing mode on the camera, so you can't hear this guy's voice in real time. It's just the back of his head, but it's a pretty compelling story, and it's one of the more, I think it's the Kandahar giant, if I'm not mistaken. This
it's
story
possible, but it just tells you that there is things out there that even if there was really proof, and they have proof of it, they would debunk it. I really think, honestly, unless somebody actually shot a Bigfoot, and brought it in where a whole bunch of people saw it, they would debunk it. I really honestly do. And I think the Bigfoot creature is more than just a Bigfoot creature. I think it's involved in something else, because all these things, like talking to Ron and talking to all my other guests that, encountered Bigfoot, it just seems there is so much more involved than just seeing a Bigfoot. The orbs, the weird sounds, basically stalking them, mocking the human, the rock throwing, taking stuff, giving stuff, and it's not just not here in Oregon or Washington. It's happening in North Carolina. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Mexico. And then it's also happening like in the Himalayas with their white abominable snowman. I mean, it's so many different things. But you go before the internet, you had to rely on stories and what you read in the newspaper, and it's just been going on too long.
Oh yeah. Now, and as far as the government knowing about this, they'd have to know. They'd have to have some protocol, just like they do with the UFO phenomena. But what can you do about it? I mean, they're in control of the issue. They're operating on a whole different level than we're able to respond to. I mean, one of the things that Bigelow said with the Gormans up there at Skinwalker Ranch was that over 10 years they only had